Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Purple Breakdown. I am your host, Alex. I'm so excited to be back here on another episode of the Purple Breakdown with you. Happy Tuesday. It's an amazing week. It's going great so far. Hope you're all enjoying it, enjoying the weather, and spring finally starting to come in. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Ravens, so let's jump into it. But first, if you like the content that you are hearing, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and commenting at the start of every video. Our first segment that we do is your comments, and so if you want your comments featured in the shout-outs, please leave comments. Makes my day, makes me smile, makes me love hearing from you guys. So, quick update first before we go into the comments. This next week, the school I work for will be going on spring break, so I will have a full week off. However, I'm going to go meet up with some of my college buddies, and we're going to go watch Yankees opening day, and just a way for the four of us to get back together. So shout out to all my college buddies, and seeing you guys next week. So we'll see how that comes out. I'm thinking I'll probably be doing more short form videos for that on YouTube to sort of keep up with that, since I'll probably be a little busier while I'm up there in New York, but I'll keep videos coming out as much as I can while doing that. So just wanted to give a quick update for how it's going to look next week. But let's jump into it. We actually have a lot of news to talk about today, and I have a lot of things to go into. So let's start with our comments, though. Cold Grumpy Tree, you said you need a haircut, my man. Yeah, I know my hair's getting a little long. I like letting it grow out during the winter. I definitely let it grow out more than I normally do. But as we come into the summer months here, spring and summer, I'm going to trim it back quite a bit. Otherwise, I just get too hot. So be expecting a haircut here soon, probably this weekend. I'm going to trim it back because I just don't want it being this long. As I'm going into the spring and summer, I want it shorter so I don't get heat stroke out there, especially when you're in Ohio and all of a sudden it's 98, 100 degrees and just humid as all could be, and then it just sucks. But thank you for the comment, Cold Grumpy Tree. Thank you very much. Shout out to you. NTEU came out and said, along with David, about the fumbles. You said, insert 2023 Zay Flowers fumble and AFC Championship. Awesome podcast today and every other day. Keep it up. Thank you so much for the support. And sorry that your family and cousins who liked the Chiefs because of Taylor Swift made fun of you because we lost that day. That was a hard day because we could have won it, and twice the Ravens got within scoring and distance, and just, that game was so frustrating to watch a few years back when they played. David, you came out and said, seems like story the past 5 years or so, Ravens get smacked with a bad play at exactly the wrong time. Andrews dropped 2-point in Buffalo, and Zay fumbling at goal line in AFC Championship. Rookie kicker missing a 42-yard field goal to get into the playoffs. Seems like we are always hoping that changes, and 2026 is no different. I can only hope a change of coaching staff will fix the untimely bad plays, and the rookies coming in from the draft will be right from the start. Hopefully, thanks for the knowledge on the draft. You are doing a great job. Thank you so much for the support, David. Honestly, I hate saying it, but you're entirely right. You want to go into every year hoping that it's not just a little change and hope that it changes. You want the change to happen, and the Ravens have had a very bad problem of not performing in the moment that they need to perform. Insert Zay Flowers, insert Mark Andrews, Tyler Loop, interceptions thrown by Lamar, missed plays on the defense. It has just been all around where somebody every year. And I think at the end of the day, you have to look at it and say so much of that has to be held responsible on the coaching staff and how the coaching staff is operating. And nothing against John Harbaugh. He was a great and amazing coach. He had been there for a while. He won the Ravens a Super Bowl. But at some point, you got to say, when does the coaching staff hold players accountable for their actions and not performing when they need to perform? And I'm hoping this new coaching staff is able to step up to that and specifically say in the expectations, look, we are expecting you to perform to this standard, and if you do not perform to this standard, consequences will be had. And that is how it will go. And so if you fumble untimely and continue to do that, you're not going to play in key situations like that. If you're not going to drop balls, others will get the chance to make that opportunity. And so I'm hoping that's how they go forward, and that brings consistency both to the offense as well as the defense. I think the defense will take a large step forward, especially under Minter, and I've gone into the entire explanation of how Minter as a defensive head mind coach and what he can do to the defense and bring the defense back to that intense bully ball defense. But I think this year it's not so much a hope, it's the expectation should be on the coaching staff that they get these players in line and order. And when specifically looking at Zay Flowers, don't do too much. Take what is given to you. Look at what is given to you. If you're given yards, don't do the step back and try cutting to the left or right or the spin. It works sometimes, but it also makes you vulnerable. Take what is given to you. Get those extra yards. Drop down or accept that you're going to get tackled, but you got the extra yards and you're not fumbling the ball. Dropping the ball, honestly, that's just should be practice every day. If you drop the ball, like, hold yourself to the higher standards. The coaches should hold yourself to the higher standards and so on. But I'm not so much hoping that this next year is changes that these players do it. I'm expecting them to make these changes, and if they can't make those changes, the coaches are responsible and should be responsible for holding those players accountable, and if they're not going to live up to that expectation, there needs to be a consequence on it. I think that's honestly how it needs to be. It's you are playing at a professional level in football in the NFL. You can't make rookie mistakes anymore. You can't make the untimely mistakes. You got to play consistent. You got to play when it matters. And if you can't hold up to that, the coaches need to hold you accountable to that, and the right actions need to be taken as a result. It's as simple as that. You're not playing Pee Wee football anymore where a mistake can be made and you can rectify it. It is a pro level. Expectations are held to the standard. If you can't make it, the coaches have to do that. But thank you for the comment, David and NTE. Love hearing from you guys. Hope you're having amazing days, as well as Cold Grumpy Tree and all the other new subscribers who are out there and commenting and saying thank you for all the support that you're giving me. I just want to say thank you and shout out to all the subscribers. We're at 63 now. I would like by the end of next month to be hitting closer to 70, so please help make that possible, and let's get up to 70. It's going great. I'm so thankful for every single one of you that comes in and subscribes and supports the podcast. It makes my day. It makes me smile seeing it continue to grow and flourish. So thank you all so much. All right, let's dive into the gist of today. Kayden McDonald just came out and said that he is taking a top 30 visit with the Ravens. Now, Kayden McDonald is defensive lineman from OSU. He didn't participate in events at the Combine, but he was at the Combine and did say that he did have a formal meeting with the Ravens while at the Combine. He's expected to be a top first round, not a top pick in the first round, but expected to be a first round pick is where he's expected to end up getting picked. This could be, people were putting him behind Peter Woods, but there's a debate in there now between the defensive tackles that are there, and Peter Woods and Kayden McDonald are sort of getting ranked by each other now. But regardless, he's expected to be a first-round pick, and he's expected to be a later first-round pick. And the Ravens are picking at pick 14. Not saying that they wouldn't do it, and I think it's a good idea to focus on the trenches, especially first in the draft and in the first round, going after a trench position, be it guard, center, or interior defensive line. They need to work on the trenches first. That is where the biggest holes are in this moment and currently for the Ravens, and the biggest question marks, and that's where it needs to go first. And so it would be exciting to see Kayden McDonald on the team. He performed very well at Ohio last year. He's a much better run defender than a pass rusher, so he'd be coming in to help with the run defense. But debates say that maybe with the proper coaching, he could take the next step up and become a better pass rusher as well. He's 6'2", 326 pounds, has 32.25-inch arms, so a massive wingspan, which I like to see. And his hands are 9 3/4 inches. So that's his size. He could hold a big impact on the Ravens. I don't think this is set in stone whether or not the top 30 picks are just showing that who could be, they're trying to possibly settle up on where they are on their board, and it's no guarantee you're taking in a top 30 visit that is going to be their first round pick. It's just saying who they have some interest in, and many other teams have interest in Kayden McDonald as well. So we'll see how it ends up there, but it's definitely news to keep an eye out and watch on. Just know it's news that does not solidify saying Kayden McDonald is now the Ravens' first round pick. That's not what it's saying. It's just who are they interested in, and they're going to bring in lots of visits and lots of other players to visit with and talk to, and had lots of other formal meetings. That's just how they're operating. They're trying to finish out and complete what their draft board looks like and who they want to pick and where. So that's the news that's coming out of the draft and what we're going to go into right there. Time to get into the juicy stuff now. DeAndre Hopkins came out today and told TMZ Sports his situation where he feels like he's ready and willing to go. And he started off by saying, like, hey, Kyler Murray now is on the Vikings, and that he'd be willing to have a great reunion with Kyler Murray at the Vikings, and said, Murray is my man, not Curry. Murray is my man. Hey, if they need me, the Vikings know I'm there for them. I'll come and I'll play with them. So he sounds very willing to be ready for a reunion with the Vikings and go there. But he also did go out and say, because there's lots of Ravens fans who are saying that Hopkins never performed up to what he could at the Ravens and has more to give at the Ravens. Look, his only 2 touchdowns of the season came in the first 2 games, and both of them were off wild catches. He had about 330 yards off of, I believe, 22 receptions. So he has more to give is what the Ravens are saying, and, well, what Ravens fans and analysts are saying, and that he'd be worth hanging on to and targeting in the red zone to give opportunities and can perform more if targeted. And that's also what he said on this. He said, hey, look, I'm willing to stay with the Ravens if the Ravens just do the same contract as last year. 1 year, $5 million contract, and also at least 1 target in the red zone per game. He thinks that can be a productive receiver when a quarterback targets him, and he understands he's an older receiver now. He's not going to be the number 1 on the depth chart, but he wants to be given the opportunity to make catches in the red zone and to be productive and bring in touchdowns. And he still believes that he can be that. I don't hate the idea of this. My only problem with it, and this is the same thing, is that the Ravens don't always pan out with bringing in older receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, yes, can the argument be made that maybe he wasn't used as much as he should have been, and this frustrated him a little and frustrated Ravens fans and analysts? Yes. But still, the results were not entirely there this past year. Multiple times, in one game, you look at the game against the Lions, he got locked down multiple times in that game, even when Lamar looked over him as the first read, came back and just looked away because he's like, there's no hitting him, there's no getting after that. And it's not to say that he can't be a productive one. I believe he can still be productive. It's just not going to be, I don't think it's going to be like the years that everyone thinks where he's going to be getting, an 800-yard season with 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. It would be something less still. I could see him getting a 400-yard, especially if he's just getting 1 target in the red zone, 400 to 500-yard season with 4 or 5 touchdowns, and that's still productive and that's good. But is that worth it for the Ravens with an older receiver that would be tying up $5 million in cap space? I don't know there. It was the same theory with Odell Beckham Jr. and that didn't pan out as well for the Ravens either. But he's saying essentially here, yeah, he's really ready and willing to go to the Vikings, but he's willing to stay with the Ravens if the Ravens are able to go through and offer him this and go through with it. So now it's up to DaCosta to go in and make this decision. Remember, DaCosta has about $30 million left to work with in cap space for this free agency and around the draft. So he has money to work with, but is he willing to tie up $5 million of that with DeAndre Hopkins? And honestly, if I'm leaning anyway, I'd rather see the Ravens lean towards a young receiver that they can hold on to for longer, because it's not helping Lamar getting another older receiver for 1 year and then that's gone. You need somebody who's going to be there more consistently and staying longer term, and you need that with a younger receiver. Which brings into the next point that sports analyst Mo Moton suggested today that the Ravens should and could try trading for Dontavian Wicks off the Packers, the Green Bay Packers. This is an interesting pick up. Dontavian Wicks, he is he's 6'1", 206 pounds, so he's a bigger-bodied receiver, and he's been buried in the depth chart at the Packers. Sorry, I need to collect my thoughts there for a second. He's been buried at the Packers. He's had, this past year, he had 30 receptions for 332 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, they added on so much with Matthew Golden and Tucker Kraft taking a step forward there. And the other receivers that they had, Romeo Doubs, Jalen Reed, Christian Watson. So he just got buried in the depth chart. And he's been on the Packers for 3 years. His first year, he had 39 receptions for 581 yards and 4 touchdowns. His second year, he had 39 receptions for 415 yards and 5 touchdowns. This past year, he had 30 receptions for 332 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's shown glimpses of being able to be a good receiver, at least a receiver that can perform well in the NFL, and he's a bigger-bodied receiver that can also help with blocking. And the Ravens, the one thing that I would argue that they need left is a receiver that is bigger body and can be an X-factor receiver. And that is what Mo Moton was arguing, is that Dontavian Wicks can be this for the Ravens. He's still younger, only coming into his 3rd year in the league. He's 24 right now, and by the time that the season starts, he'll be 25 at that point. But he could offer this bigger-bodied receiver, X-factor receiver that the Ravens have needed, and I would argue it's the last receiver type that the Ravens really need at this point, is a bigger-body receiver that can be used both as a blocker as well as an X-factor receiver that can sort of box out and just make those contested catches. And so this could be one of the ways that the Ravens are willing to go with it. It's not a bad suggestion by Mo Moton, and it's likely going to cost them a 3rd-day pick. I'm thinking a 4th or 5th-round pick, since he's shown that he can be as productive as anyone's picked up on that day, or with the upside of more. So I'd be leaning more towards a 4th-round pick, which I think the Ravens would be willing to give up for it. The only catch on this is he is coming into the 4th year of his seasons in the NFL, and so his contract will be coming to the end after this next year. And the Ravens, if they wanted to retain him, would have to pay him a longer-term contract. But he wouldn't be the number 1 or number 2 receiver on the depth chart. He would be behind Flowers and Bateman. And I don't think it would take as much to re-sign him to a longer-term contract as what it would take for others. And so I like this suggestion by Mo Moton for the Ravens to do, and it's giving up a later round draft pick, and you're getting a productive receiver who's shown flashes with better upside for a later round pick, where it's already questionable what you'd be getting with that later round pick, because the later you go into the draft, the more uncertain you get about what their possibilities are, and the draft picks are never going to be perfect. You're lucky if you can get a home run hit out of the draft, let alone 2 doubles and everything else. So you're getting a proven player, and this is the same argument with Kayvon Thibodeau. The only downside with Thibodeau is that Thibodeau really is a proven player and has proven that he can be like a double or more, possibly with higher upside at the right pieces around him, and it would cost a lot to retain him the years after. But I like this pickup that could happen with Dontavian Wicks. Now, this is, again, it's up to DaCosta and whether DaCosta wants to or not, or also whether the Packers would be willing to give him up. But with what the Packers have there at receiver, I don't see why they really wouldn't be willing to give him up, especially with how buried he is in the depth chart there, and the 1st-round pick of Matthew Golden last year and the other picks that they have. Even if Romeo Doubs left for the Patriots, they still have so many receivers there and a good tight end room that I could see them being willing to part with him and getting a 4th-round pick for him, and having that chance of getting an upside pick out of the 4th round that they could use. This is one way that the Ravens can address that, I believe, last need at receiver, having a bigger-bodied X-factor receiver, that combo blocker, contested catcher. And it's the last thing that the Ravens need, because if you look at what the Ravens have, they have Zay Flowers, they have Rashad Bateman, they have Devontae Walker, they have LeJohntay Wester. Those 4 receivers going into next year, I mean, there's a solid core there. Zay Flowers will be the number 1. Bateman is expected, that DaCosta's already said, and Doyle's already said that they expect him to take a step forward again and have a resurgent year. Interestingly, D-Hop also came out and talked about LeJohntay Wester and said, hey, look, people are undervaluing him. He could have a bigger role this next year. He's a good guy, and the Ravens need one more receiver going into next year. So even DeAndre is saying it, that the Ravens need one more receiver going into next year, and that LeJohntay should be competing for that position and could be productive for the Ravens. Now remember, LeJohntay Wester this next year is just more put in the role of punt returner is what expected of him. He took up that role last year. He had some good punt returns this past year and also on the kickoff, and got some yardage out of it. I believe it was 198 yards on punt return, and he was sharing the load there. But he's expected to take on full punt returner and could fight for a role between Devontae Walker and LeJohntay Wester. And I think it should be willing, if Bateman doesn't perform to the top need, perform to what he's expected to, that those guys also get the chance to fight with a spot for Bateman and move up the depth chart. But the Ravens still need one more guy, and you either address it by making a trade like this, picking up someone in free agency like Juwan Jennings or Keenan Allen, or through the draft, which is where Malachi Fields and Chris Bell and some of the bigger guy receivers come into play for what the Ravens could use. But that's the depth chart right now. And I mean, Zay is your route runner. I mean, you look at what he does and how shifty he is, and his mechanics of, I mean, he can get you extra yards off of spin moves and juking out. But as a solid route runner and receiver there, Bateman is your deep field threat, and then Walker and LeJohntay are your other two guys. But neither of them are a bigger bodied receiver that is used in the way that you would use somebody else like Wick, or possibly other bigger guys like Juwan Jennings or Keenan Allen. And so I think the Ravens need this one more pickup, and it's a really big need for them going into this next year. And I'd rather see a younger receiver brought in to fill in this role rather than an older one at this point, just to give Lamar Jackson long-term consistency with it. You still have Zay Flowers on contract for at least 2 more years with the 5th-year option. LeJohntay Wester, which just picked up this past year, so still has 3 more years. Walker's still here for a little bit longer, and same with Bateman. And so bringing in one more younger receiver that you could either make an extension with, so like they could bring in Wicks this year with the trade and then immediately sign him onto a longer-term contract to get out ahead of that, or drafting somebody and having at least 4 years with them. And this could go a long way towards saying, look, Lamar, we are investing in receivers and bringing in talent to try and help you right now. Let's get a longer-term contract worked out, because we're investing in receivers for you that you can throw to and are going to help us succeed. Let's get a long-term contract worked out with you. And it would do a lot better for that receiver to be a younger guy, or at least a guy that's not going to be there just 1 or 2 more years, that it's a guy that can be there 3, 4 more years on the team. So that is the news for today, and I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. That's all I have for you today. It was a quick one, 23 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed it and learned a little bit today and are getting excited as we're drawing in closer and closer to the draft and what that could mean for the Ravens. But first, we got to move and groove. Thank you for that comment. Move and groove through free agency into the draft, and some pickups still need to be made in free agency. Still looking at some of the major positions. Some of those might not be filled until after the draft, just seeing who's left there or the June 1st deadline. But we will see. I want to thank you all so much for joining in today. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please consider liking the video, subscribing, as well as commenting. Those comments get featured in the first section of every long-form video like this. If you're on Spotify, please do the same. Follow, review, and comment. I want to thank you all so much for joining in and listening. I can't wait to make the next episode and keep talking with you guys. Have a great rest of your day. Have a good one.